Good day and welcome to SCO BRICS Insight, where we bring you the latest news and commentary on what's going on in the world of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization and the BRICS Plus. Today our focus is going to be on Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan is one of the founder members of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization alongside Russia, China, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan and Uzbekistan. Kazakhstan is also a member of the Eurasian Economic Union, and it shares one of the world's longest borders with Russia. It's very much part of the Eurasian scene and is a major economy and trades not only with the Eurasia but also with the West. Kazakhstan is a major oil producer and is also the major producer in the world of uranium ore. One of the more interesting aspects of it recently was the visit this week by President Macron of France on a state visit to Kazakhstan, and we don't think it was just a reciprocal visit, given that President Aliyev of Kazakhstan visited Paris last year. Given that the four Central Asian republics visited the United Nations General Assembly, and on the sidelines of that had a meeting with Joe Biden. So it's very much looking like the West is looking to drive a wedge, if you like, between the Central Asia, Russia and China. Will they succeed? Well, we shall see. One of the problems that Kazakhstan has is its inward investment is very substantially Western orientated. Within its oil industry, it's the Western multinationals, and a lot of its trade in oil goes via the Caspian pipeline, which is very much Western owned, to Novosibirsk, which is a Russian port, and onto the world markets. Its other mainly agricultural trade goes to Russia and other parts of Central Asia. Its major resource, though, which is why I think that President Macron visited Kazakhstan, is uranium. Kazakhstan has over 40% of the world's uranium ore, and it's a vital resource to the nuclear energy industry. So given the fact that Macron has recently lost his major source of uranium ore, which was the Central African Republic of Niger, which was a former French colony, he is obviously on the lookout for new resources. In fact, you could say that France is desperately seeking uranium, and Kazakhstan seems to fit the bill. He may encounter some problems there, of course, because the Kazakhstan uranium sector is very much dominated by Russia. Rosatom has around 40% of the mining rights to uranium in the country, and Rosatom itself is the world's largest producer of enriched uranium. In fact, both the United States and France are major customers of Rosatom. So we shall see how that one particularly develops. But certainly it looks like that the visit by Macron following the meeting that Aliyev had with Joe Biden in New York means that he's sort of hedging his bets, if you like, in working with the West, as well as trying to work very closely with Russia and obviously China. Vast majority of their sort of general trade is with Russia, and but their inward investment comes from the West. So you can see where they're trying to do it. Also, there's been a lot of pressure recently on Kazakhstan to make sure that they abide by the sanctions, so that they do not try to circumvent the Western sanctions that are being placed on Russia by exporting prohibited goods via their country into Russia. And we shall see how that progresses. So it's interesting from every perspective of how important these countries of Central Asia have become in the pivot. It almost goes back to the days of Mackinder and the Great Heartland, given the fact that Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, etc. are all part of the old Great Silk Road trade routes that went from Europe to India and to China. So Macron also visited Uzbekistan, and the day he arrived in Uzbekistan coincided with the eve of a major summit, which is the Eurasian Economics Forum that was founded originally in Verona in Italy and was known as the Verona Eurasian Summit. Unfortunately, that had to change venues due to the sanctions in 2022 and took place in Baku, and this year is in Samarkand. It's a very interesting conference which attracts a large audience from the economic and political spheres from both the West and the East. In fact, the headline of my major story that I did on it on SCO BRICS Insight is West meets East in Samarkand to talk business. Unfortunately, the conference was actually very much overshadowed by politics as opposed to trade and economic issues. Although it was their political effects on trade that were really took the headlines, and it was particularly interesting by some of the speakers. One of the speakers was the Deputy Prime Minister of Russia, Alexei Overchuk, and he discussed in his address to the conference about the effect of sanctions. And here's his comment. Our country has experienced the West's so-called sanctions from hell year after last year's Baku forum. It seems that Russia is moving away from Europe. The collective West aimed to destroy Russia and its economy, but it's had the opposite effect. Russia not only survived, but progressed despite the restrictions, sanctions, and prohibitions put upon it. He also said, during the first 9 months of this year, the Russian GDP increased by 2.8%, and with a surge of annual rates in August and September of 5.2% in August and September. So, as he was saying, he was quite pleased about how Russia had overcome these particular sanctions and the effect that they've had on different sectors of the Russian economy, which has moved away from just being hydrocarbons, with massive increases in the agricultural production. He also mentioned computer and electronic productions, electrical equipment, and furniture production, which was kind of interesting to me. Now, he's also commented the fact that why did the West abandon the cheap energy resources that Russia offered? That was the basis for their major industrial kind of renaissance, if you like, in the 90s, 2000s, and into the 2010s. It doesn't appear to based on logic. I mean, why would you look to destroy your economies over a situation in the Ukraine, which effectively is two countries neighboring each other, with Russia having a large Russian ethnic population in the eastern part of that country, looking for a level of autonomy. I don't understand why it all then kicked off into a major global conflict and a major global economic conflict. I mean, if we look at it logically, the EU has lost something around 1.5 trillion in lost production, lost revenue, lost GDP, and its whole structure is now literally collapsing. Its energy costs are huge compared with what they were before. It's seen rampant food inflation, unemployment is high, and its circumstances are radically different from where they were prior to this. Was it all done because of the Ukraine? And why, when Ukraine is not an EU member and it's not even a NATO member? Romano Prodi, the former Prime Minister of Italy and President of the Foundation for International Cooperation, basically suggested that the reason behind it was the mismanagement and lack of understanding of the leadership within the European Commission. They have dictated policies that are effectively industrial suicide for the member countries by forcing through such measures as the cutting of the use of Russian energy resources and cut out Russia as a market. Russia was a huge market for EU goods. That used to be around 200 billion euros per year in trade between Russia and the EU. That was the EU exports to Russia. That's now down to around 50 billion euros, and will trickle down to very little. I mean, we are looking at everything from foodstuffs. I mean, you cannot buy Italian cheese or French cheeses, Danish pork. These have all been replaced by other countries or by Russian domestic production. He can't understand, as he said in his own words, I cannot understand why we are not preserving our trading links with China and with Russia, as they were so worthwhile and so beneficial to the countries of the EU. So we're looking now at where do we go from here? Where does the EU and Russia go? Well, Russia has already replaced the EU markets with the markets of the global south, of Asia, of Latin America, and through BRICS Plus, it's certainly doing so much better than it was doing before. Its economy is still growing compared with the other countries, economies that are not still growing. Its trade with India is going through the roof, as is its trade with China. Its trade with China will now surpass what it used to do with the EU, and it's now above the level of $200 billion per year. With India, it's around $70 billion per year. It's now exporting fertilizers to Brazil. It's selling its agricultural products, wheat, grain, etc., to the global south. So all in all, it's managed to replace the EU. And what has the EU replaced Russia with? American LNG at 3 times the price. Now, replacing Russian pipeline gas for LNG at 3 times the price is not economically viable in the medium term or the long term. It's not sustainable financially for their industries. It's not sustainable for their populations. This winter, I think, will probably be colder than it was last winter, and the demand for gas was lower last winter, because of the weather conditions, but also by the number of industrial companies that have cut down on their gas use. That means that they're not producing as much. Their industry is cutting back on investment. I mean, for example, Volkswagen have decided not to open a battery plant for electric vehicles in the Czech Republic, but in North America. In BASF, they are looking to open a new chemical plant, not in Germany, but in China. So these are some of the knock-on effects that have been had, and these were things that were discussed in Samarkand. So if you want full details of what took place at the conference in Samarkand with people like Romano Prodi, Warchuk, etc., and the views of the people from the Verona Eurasian Forum, do log on to the website SCO BRICSinsight.com, which will give you the overview. Also, there is a major article that I wrote going into detail about Macron's visit to Kazakhstan and their current industrial situation. Thank you for watching. Do like and subscribe, and I look forward to making another video for you shortly. Thank you.